and welcome to another homemade edition of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. Well, it happens every year. The studio closes for the holidays, and I bring you a homemade version. This year, it's even more interesting because the deadline for both the December 25th, 2019 and January 1st, 2020 show submissions is December 19th. Needless to say, you won't get a lot of news. Now, in the good old days, they would just repeat episodes, but I think that everyone should at least get updates on things like the community bulletin board and news for seniors. After all, it's not much fun hearing about interesting events that you've already missed. Now, here's the usual social media reminder. You can watch the Arlington Weekly News on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com, Arlington Weekly News and the number 1. Also on facebook.com, Arlington Weekly News. And you can hear us on the radio at 96.7 FM WERA. Now let's go to the news such as it is. There is one piece of news that I can relay, but it's a piece of news that didn't happen. Our station, Arlington Independent Media, had been informed of the possibility that the business across the street, known as 2U Studios, might be expanding their operation into the building that AIM now occupies. This was received as hopeful news because the two organizations have gotten along well in the past and that some kind of facility sharing arrangement might be possible. The arrangement would have allowed AIM to remain at its current location at a reduced rent in exchange for sharing studio space and production facilities and equipment with 2U. We have since learned that this will not be possible because 2U will not be able to arrange the expansion that they had hoped for. This leaves AIM in a difficult financial position, since the facility rental once provided by Comcast ended some time ago. AIM will be undertaking a series of fundraisers to attempt to continue, but the future is now in doubt. Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News will continue into 2020 and may go on as a YouTube presence even if AIM should close. However, if there was ever a time to donate to Arlington Independent Media, this is it. Time for Easy Being Green. Since this would normally be a show that we'd record on Christmas, let's take a late look at Mistletoe with Miriam Gennari filling in for Adele Quo as the Ghost of Christmas Mistletoe.
It's easy being green.
I am the ghost of Christmas mistletoe. Gather around, boys and girls, as Joe Tree Frog and I tell a tale behind the festive floral of mistletoe. In the forest, mistletoe is a freeloader, a hemiparasitic plant that attaches itself to other trees and sometimes even other mistletoe to pilfer its host's water and nutrients. In fact, the scientific name for mistletoe, pterodendron, is Greek for thief of the tree. Many varieties of mistletoe, the leaf, stem, and berries are all poisonous. But at Christmas, mistletoe has become a symbol of puckering up and kissing. How does this parasitic poisonous plant become a celebrated Christmas decor with a rich history far more interesting than your uncle's tall tales? Well, in the days of the ancient Druids, mistletoe, especially a rare species that grew out of oak trees, was a sacred plant believed to have medicinal qualities and mysterious supernatural powers. The Druids would collect mistletoe during the summer and winter solstice to decorate and protect their homes. The ancient Greeks referred to mistletoe as oak sperm, probably originating from the belief that it had the power to bestow fertility. and kissing under the mistletoe is found associated with Greek festivals of Saturnalia and others with marriage ceremonies due to the plant's association with fertility. The Greeks used the little berries to cure things like menstrual cramps to spleen disorders. The Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder noted mistletoe could be used as a balm against epilepsy, ulcer, and poisons. In Norse mythology, the mischievous Loki made mistletoe's arrows to kill Baldar, the only plant to which Odin's son Baldar was vulnerable because his goddess mom, Frigg, forgot to ask mistletoe to protect her son from harm. When Frigg wept tears onto the mistletoe arrow, her tears turned into white berries, which she placed on Baldar's wounds, bringing him back to life. Overjoyed, Frigg blessed the mistletoe plant and promised to kiss all who passed beneath it. Through the Middle Ages, mistletoe continued to be associated with fertility and vitality. By the 18th century, stealing a kiss beneath the mistletoe became a popular tradition among servants in Victorian England. It is considered bad luck for a woman to refuse a kiss beneath the mistletoe. So if you find yourself under the mistletoe this Christmas, remember, mistletoe is Anglo-Saxon, a word meaning dung twig. Some may say mistletoe is poop on a stick.
What with most of the holiday events being over, and having checked the available announcements in advance of my required submission date of December 19th, 2019, it's hard to find a whole lot for CBB or seniors. Here's one neat thing for families. It's called Ring in the Noon Year. Some little kids, and even some grown-ups, want to celebrate the new year but can't quite manage to stay awake until midnight. The solution? Celebrate with a countdown to the noon hour. Hence the title, Ring in the Noon Year. You can join in the fun, which includes games, crafts, light snacks, and, of course, the countdown. It's especially good for families with elementary-age kids and younger kids. Think of it this way. You'll be 12 hours ahead of almost everybody else, so you can beat the rush. This is happening on Tuesday, December 31st, naturally, from 11 o'clock a.m. to, you guessed it, 12 noon, at Columbia Pike Branch Library, 816 South Walter Reed Drive. Also coming up in the new year, Toy Palooza is back. This is an event for kids of all ages with no registration required. They just bring out the toys and you get to play. Their notice says that attendance is on a first-come, first-served basis, but you should be fine as long as you remember to share. That's coming up on Saturday, January 4th, 2020, from 10 o'clock a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in the Eads Room of Aurora Hills Branch Library, 735 18th Street South. If you missed that one, you can also come on January 11th, 18th, or 25th. For seniors, the good old Cherrydale Knitting Club is still going strong. All skill levels and all ages are welcome, and they'll have needles and yarn for beginners to use for practice. However, attendees are encouraged to bring their own supplies. No registration is required, so you can just come on by and get your purl on, or something. That's coming up on Wednesday, January 8th, 2020. Get used to that year, you'll need it. From 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. in the loft at Cherrydale Branch Library, 2190 North Military Road. Also for seniors, or anyone else with an interest in women's history, there's a lecture coming up. It's called Women in U.S. Politics, Perspectives Through Time. Danielle Higgins, a doctoral student in political science, will deliver a presentation about the evolving attitudes towards women in U.S. politics. Ms. Higgins will be opening a two-part lecture series focused on civic engagement. That's coming up on Tuesday, January 7th, 2020, in the Longfellow Room at Westover Branch Library, 1644 North McKinley Road, Suite 3. Now let's take a look back and honor one of our old favorites, Rich Masabny, who passed away a couple of years ago. Rich had a personality that made his memorial service seem more like a celebrity roast. Here's how our theater reviewer, Denise Pringle, remembered Rich.
I met Rich and Judy 25 or 30 years ago when I dated Ward, who spoke earlier at the memorial. And after he and I broke up, I maintained the best part of that relationship. I clung to Rich and Judy. And Rich and I bonded because my father grew up in the same neighborhood of Brooklyn. And when you're from Brooklyn, you don't say you're from Brooklyn. They said they were from Bay Ridge, which is one particular neighborhood in Brooklyn. But, and I had also been a theater major in college, so he knew I loved theater. And again, he would go out 7 nights a week, and Judy could not keep up with that. So he asked me if I'd want to go with him. And it's like, I jumped at that chance. And literally, I've gone to a couple hundred plays with Rich. And I could never have had that experience without knowing him. But I remember the very first time I went to the theater with him. And he was friendly with a lot of the other reviewers there. One of them, Bob Anthony, especially, who has also passed away. But on the way to the theater, he was saying, you know, would you go along with this with me? There's going to be other reviewers there that I know, and could you pretend to have the hots for me? You know, like maybe look at me adoringly or cling to me or something. And I'm thinking, I don't think so. I don't think I want to do that. But we went, and I was not clinging, but I was trying to get a little close, at least to have a little familiarity. Well, he locked eyes with Bob Anthony, and he started squealing like a 12-year-old. Judy's mother's in the hospital, and she couldn't come tonight. This is not my girlfriend. So that's how that all went. And again, we would go many times. And I'm remembering one time at Washington Shakespeare Theater, Chris Henley. We were there late because Rich always liked to make an appearance, and he loved getting to a theater a minute before showtime, so he would be noticed as we were taking our seats. But they didn't have seats, and I remember the artistic director saying to one of his co-workers, could you get a couple of folding chairs for Mr. Masabny and his date? And we're like laughing, and I'm thinking, Rich, did you bring a date? You know. But another of my favorite stories, and it happened so many times, Rich would be annoyed that Judy had not chosen to go to a particular play, and I was always second best, but I got to go a lot, so I didn't gripe. But all the way driving to a production, he'd be saying, I can't believe Judy wouldn't want to see this. This is going to be so good. It serves her right. You and I like the theater better anyway. She just doesn't love the theater like you and I did. And he'd go, and he'd probably sleep through a lot of it. And at the end, at the applause, almost all the time, we'd be applauding the end of a show, and he'd look at me and say, I wish Judy was here. And it's like, what am I, Chaplin? But the best falling asleep story was when a friend and I were going to see Wicked, and we bought tickets, which Rich thought was an abhorrent idea. But, you know, $100 for a Kennedy Center ticket. And when my friend was ill, I'm thinking, I'd love to ask Judy or a lot of other people who would love this show, because he thinks it's for kids anyway. So we went to see Wicked, and Rich fell asleep before the curtain went up. Rich did not see 1 second of Wicked. So, and how many other related stories about his not being handy. I remember in a hurricane with no lights on at your house while you was working, I was fixing the toilet flapper because he was griping about calling a plumber. And I was saying, well, just fix the toilet yourself. And he was like, I can't do that. I was thinking, well, I can. He didn't tell me you had no power and that we were going to be down in the downstairs bathroom with flashlights fixing the toilet. And I also remember walking on Church Street, going to Keegan Theater and seeing a rat in the middle of the street. And rats running loose in the middle of the street were really frightening to Rich. And I can even understand that. And he professed loving little animals. And I used to do a lot of cat rescue. And I did neonatal. I've had some kittens as young as 12 hours old. But once I had a cute pair of fluffy kittens that were about 10 days old, they had just opened their eyes and they were precious. And I took them over to visit Rich, and Rich was terrified of the kittens. They'll scratch my eyes out. So to my big brave friend, Rich, they won't scratch your eyes out. Another one was that, not only did we refer to me as his girlfriend, but I always referred to him as my girlfriend because my female friends have died and moved away and retired. And right now in life, my 3 closest girlfriends all happen to be married men. But I would tell him, you're my best girlfriend, and he'd say, no. So again, I will never go to the theater again in my life without thinking of him. I can't imagine life without him. So, and if my grief is this deep, Judy, I can't imagine what yours is like.
Rich had a kind of brassy New York sensibility with a sense of humor. Here's a song that kind of suits him.
What is it about the midnight moon that inspires so many romantic schemes? What is it about the midnight moon that makes the boys pine for the girl of their dreams? You hardly ever see them cruise from the top of the roof to the sun at noon. It's only to the mysterious midnight moon. What is it about the midnight moon that fills the folk with horrific visions? What is it about the midnight moon that causes the vampires to make brutal incisions? You hardly ever see werewolves stalk through the morning rush hour in downtown New York. It's only under the mysterious midnight moon. What is it about the midnight moon that sends the seers on fantasy's flight? What is it about the midnight moon that bathes them in supernatural light? With gods and goddesses, fairies and nymphs, and celestial beings of indeterminate gender. It isn't the moon, it's just some writer gone off on a bender.
As the old year dies, with winter having just begun, it sometimes helps to remember that it won't last forever. Here's a song about that, called rush-a-by. And that's our show for the session that would have happened on Christmas Day. I'll be back next week with a New Year's show that will have even more unusual items. Be sure to tune in again, and we'll see you then.